So we have a fantastic combination for you today, coming from both education and sports background. Shantanu's list of achievements is long. I am Calcutta graduate, and then spent significant amount of work with education space, and then his one of the largest stint was with Rajasthan Royals as the COO, and did some phenomenal work there, and also took the franchise to great levels. Welcome, Shantanu. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Jitu, for this introduction. I'm really excited to be here and talk to all of these students and share whatever I know about the industry, the leagues, the business, etc., and hopefully give them some inspiration.
Thank you. We also have Abhijit Dabhade. Again, comes with a massive experience in the sports education space. He has set up several renowned top-class sports management institutes in India. He will help us with his insights of the space of sports management from education and building a career in sports management point of view. Welcome, Abhijit.
Thank you, Jitu. Equally excited as Santanu is to interact with the students. Look forward to answering to their queries, their concerns that they may have regarding the new emerging area of called sports management. Everybody has this curiosity as to what exactly is sports management and how will it help me if I have to really get into this sector. So look forward to interact.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Abhijit. Myself, I am Jitendra Joshi. Been in this space for almost 17 years now. Started my own company, Sports Village, way back in 2003, and then worked in multiple space, including leagues and grassroots sports, and setting up our own IPs, etc. So welcome again, all of you. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Let's jump straight into the leagues, right? Over last, we started way back in 2003, and at that point in time, sports as a career option was not that great. But today, I can tell with a lot of authenticity and confidence that it's a great space to be in, with tremendous amount of potential from a growth perspective, especially in India. Just to give you a sense. Today, Indian sports industry is about less than 0.5% of the national GDP. If you look at Western world countries like in the Western world, US, etc., the sports industry is about 3 to 5% of the national GDP. So therefore, the headroom for growth is phenomenal. And as the disposable income is growing, the sports industry is growing, and this is manifested in the large number of leagues that have been formed in the country over last 10 years. To way back in 2008, that's when IPL started, and that I would say is an inflection point from a league's perspective. It showed us the way for the other leagues also to be set up. Not just interestingly, it is not just the professional leagues. We are also seeing a tremendous amount of growth in the amateur sports leagues as well. A lot of interesting business models have been created around amateur sports as well. But today we will focus on the professional sports leagues and the business side of it. So Shantanu, let me bring you in. If you can just help us help the students with the overall, the business model of the leagues. What are the various components of it? How does a league get formed from a customer point of view, consumer point of view, Indian consumer point of view, and what are the various revenue streams that the leagues possess, and then what are the top areas in which the cost side happens. Just to give you a sense, and then we can delve into what are the various career options in these leagues. Chandra, you're on mute.
Yeah. Okay. So, hi everyone, and thanks Jitu for the context. So I mean, I was part of the initial design thinking of the IPL, so I can sort of relate to this question in terms of what are the various areas and departments and areas to look for. So I think in the IPL, okay, let me try and split it between the consumer side, the customer side, and sort of the sports side, right? In most leagues, I think you'll have possibly 3 to 4 areas of revenue, depending on sort of who the customer is, etc. First, of course, is going to be your large television broadcasting. Nowadays, the world is about broadcasting. I think both television and digital now. I mean, when we began the IPL, there wasn't so much digital, but over the last 4-5 years, and certainly over the last 4-5 to 10 years now, digital has slowly grown. So both television and digital broadcasting are big areas of revenue, work, opportunity, and so on and so forth, because it only gets better and better. Technology can give you so many new nuances of the way that you can consume the sport. So of course, in television broadcasting, there's a lot of intricacies there. People who do the sort of plain Jane kind of production, as well as those who do all the snazzy visuals and technology visuals and the Hawkeyes and all the other stuff. So you can get in, that's a whole area of work, helping television and digital broadcasting happen for sports. I think the second big area is obviously in the in what we call match day, in what we call the event happening, right? Mm-hmm. That is where a whole lot of customers come in. They want to experience the sport in live, and they buy tickets, they buy hospitality, they buy whatever is required to enjoy the game, including sort of food, beverages, merchandise, t-shirts, so on and so forth, right? So that whole area of people who actually pay money and come to the game is a huge area. And I think the third big area which is developing right now is just fans who may not be watching it on TV, may not be watching it on the ground, but actually are big consumers of all content, consumers of all that the sport puts out. And that's also like a growing field. And in olden days, it was about people writing in media. It was about sports journalists and sports media people, right? A lot of writers, authors, etc., journalists, etc., would be in that space. So, but they are all writing for the larger public of the people who are fans. You open up a Times of India page, and obviously so many people in Mumbai actually read that because they are consumers of sports. They are lovers of sports and consumers of sports. You take that to the next level, you're talking about digital content. So broadly for me, I think it's three large areas: television, digital kind of broadcasting, then the match day event and experience, and finally the non-match day experience for fans to work with, to understand sport. So if I look at it from the customer side, these are the 3 areas. Okay. On the delivery side, which is a whole lot of work, which is operations both of the sport, of the various teams, of the various venues. Then there's making sure that there is a right and good experience. There's making sure that all, especially for the athletes and the teams in whichever sport or whichever league or whichever team they are in, there's a certain code of conduct, certain rules, so that the sanctity of the sport is maintained. So So there is operations there, both at the sport level, at the league level, at the team level, at the venue level, and whole lot of stuff there. So there's, I mean, you can get into it and unravel each part, and all of them have opportunities, right? So broadly speaking, at the end, these are things I think would cover a lot of that stuff.
Okay.
Either it's heavily centered around the customer and consumer, or it's around the delivery of the sport at the various levels.
Right. So before I get to the next question, just all the students, if you can, put down your questions, on the chat. I would make sure that the conversation is ensuring some of the questions that you might have. So please feel free to put in your questions on the chat. One of us will address that as and when the conversation meanders in that direction.
Sure.
So that's one. So Santanu, one of the things that lot of from IPL, lot of the leagues have created very interesting business models, right? You have one where the ownership is with the federation. The volleyball is the volleyball league has taken the business model where the ownership is both with the franchisees and the league ownership is with the league owner, the private guys. So together with the federation, they have created that business model. So very interesting kind of business models are being set up. From a product, the league itself point of view, what are your thoughts on what are the things that are taken into consideration when you are setting up a league? For example, when it came to IPL, we found that the cricket, which was a long format, T20 was the natural choice because it was very entertaining, fast pace, shorter time frame, which worked very well for television and for the audiences. The model was built around cities to ensure that the more consumers are, the affinity towards the city is there, and leveraging that. Can you throw some light on these aspects which are going into considering what kind of product itself is formed during the leagues, in the leagues?
Yes. So basically, at least let me just step back a bit. In sports, there are essentially two types of models. One is your leagues, and the other is your tours. I think you'll see a lot in golf, in tennis, a lot of what they call the tour, right? In US, for example, the PGA Tour, or in India it's the PGTI Tour, etc. Similarly, in tennis you have the ATP Tour and stuff like that. So broadly, there are two products, two models, tours and leagues. Now in leagues, at least in India, I mean, you refer to the IPL being city-based. I think all the leagues right now are sort of moving towards a city-based kind of a model. I think the primary purpose was to take the sport directly to fans. I think what happened in the last so many years before the leagues and the IPL came about is that the sports were not going directly to fans, right? They were channelized through either government or through these bodies of governance of sports, right? Whether it's the BCCI or the Football Federation of India, etc. And that was an opaque way of doing it. Players and fans, mostly fans, were not getting really close to their superstars or their stars. Neither were they really understanding the sport in its intricate levels. So that is one of the reasons why we actually gave in IPL this whole concept of a sort of city-based team, so that each city can get after their team. Right?
Fantastic.
So if you ask me what was the I mean, it wasn't even thought, I don't think it was thought through very well, but at that point in time, clearly there was a big, one can see there was a big gap between how the sport is managed, played, and the stars or the athletes and the sort of on the street fan, and there was nothing connecting them both. And this model of sport like sort of location based teams, because if you have the IPL for all of India, then you have all of these, every state also does their own small IPLs, right? Like for example, in fact, Maharashtra will do Pune versus, let's say, Sangli or something like that. Now everybody is starting to own their team and get close to their team. So the big insight there is, if you actually the fan and the sports star were getting closer, and that's the model. That's the model which seems to have really gone big right now, because now you can see, I mean, now it's obvious that the fans want to know more about the sport, want to know more about the sports star.
Right.
So that is one which has picked up, right? The other thing I think also will pick up is fans and young children will want to play that sport. Right?
Yeah.
To some form of clubs, playing clubs, which is already existing in some way, but if we can think of another model to excite these playing people. So earlier on, fans were more sort of armchair fans or consumers of entertainment. I see now more and more people wanting to play the game and actually compete in bigger and bigger and slowly bigger and bigger levels. So that could be another product, sort of a inter club kind of a model. But we have to develop it. It has to happen. I mean, people have to get excited about playing, about winning, etc. It's very prevalent, for example, in places like UK, right, and Australia, where they have a very strong club system where people actually every week they actually go to their club and play their sport, whether it's sort of hockey or football or badminton or even things like karate and stuff like that. People do that. So the next version, the next product that's going to come up, my view, in sports is going to be sort of inter-club, which is basically inter-amateur format.
Right. So Santanu, you have been handling a franchise on your own. So two questions to you. One, how does a franchise make money? What is for the franchise, very quick overview of what how does a franchise make money? Second, for the students here, what are the kind of opportunities from the operations of these leagues point of view? Because apart from the sponsorship and the television rights, etc., which is a very small component of the overall jobs or the careers available, if you can throw light on what are the options that the students might have, given the proliferation of leagues happening not just at the professional sports but also at the amateur sports. If you can just throw light on it, I think it would be good. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, the franchise has many modes of making money and spending money. Certainly the various revenue sources that people have is sort of television revenue, digital revenue, merchandise.
So they have a portion or a percentage of the center, let's say the BCCI makes a percentage of that would go to.
Yeah, I mean, I can be. I mean, in general, yes. Some cases, some rights owners may share, some may not share. So I think in the IPL, of course, I can tell you and be specific. But in the other leagues, I think there is variance. But if you want to know specific about IPL, yes, of course, there is a portion of the television revenue which goes to the teams. There's a portion of the central sponsorship revenue which goes to the teams. The teams have their own team sponsorship revenues. The teams have their own sort of match day revenues. And then they can, of course, that is during the season. And in the off season, they can potentially do a lot of stuff. Currently not play games, but they can do a lot of branding, events, sponsorships. They can do some local events, local fan building events, etc. So there's lots of opportunities on the sort of revenue side, both in and out of the season. In the costs, in the operations side, of course, as a team, if you're part of the
as
IPL,
a team, what are the opportunities for the students from a jobs, careers point of view? If you can just throw light on that.
Yeah, I think it's like in any other sort of business, you will have operations, marketing, IT, technology. You would have sales. You would have marketing itself is a whole area where you would have things like digital fan building, ground fan building, sponsorships, local partnerships, growing the fan base, and so on and so forth. So ultimately, growing the fan base is also sort of very important. So there are opportunities for them across the area. I mean,
so just on
it depends on where the person gets their passion. And let me give you an example, right? I mean, if you feel that after looking at various opportunities or after having some experience in various areas, that enjoying the match has been something that students have enjoying the match has been something that anybody has really liked, then or whatever you have felt passion about the sport, you can then make that part of your career and make sure you get into areas which are in, let's say, match day experience, whether it be merchandise sales or operations, their event operations, or F&B, and so on and so forth, right? It's if one strongly believes that, okay, the experience of a fan should be amazing, and because it's a transforming experience to be part of a great sporting event, and therefore the fan should get the best possible sort of experience, and you're passionate about that, then you have an opportunity there. Then you can be part of so many companies who do all of this stuff, making sure that the experience is great. Marketing companies, F&B companies, event management companies, and so on and so forth. So to answer that question, I think one will have to sort of experience all these areas first, and I'll tell you how to do that. And the second part would be that you ask yourself the question as to what is it that excites you about that sport? What is it that has actually changed your own personal life, right? And it could be various things. It could be you played the game, or you coached the game, or you enjoyed it from the TV, or you were watching stuff. What is it that gave each one of you, what is it that gave you that excitement and passion and curiosity? Because that's what you will bring into the sporting field, right? On the first part, one of the things I did say was, I think it's currently the sports industries, India is not as mature as many other places in the world, in the US and the UK and all of those places, of course, but it's growing. At this point in time, I would encourage you to look at it holistically, right? Ultimately, look at it from a consumer point of view. Who are the people who are enjoying the sport? The customers, right? It could be the television audience, it could be the match day audience, it could be a digital fan, it could be a kid who's wanting to learn and train, it could be a fitness enthusiast who says, I'll go and play badminton in a club because I want to get fit or healthy. So my submission to everyone and suggestion to everyone is to come at, especially in the business of sports, come from it from a customer point of view, from a customer segment point of view, right? And that will give you a clarity that you probably don't have right now. Like take an example. I think sports have now started getting into so many areas with the way of life, whether it is health, whether it is fitness, whether it is education, whether it is professional education. For example, in our company right now, we talk about how sport can build certain life skills useful for professionals: team building, leadership, discipline, routines, all of that stuff, right? So every consumer, again, so simply put, my suggestion is, look at it from a consumer point of view. Look if you're interested in the sport, and let's say you want to bring the sport of any sport and give consumers that magic of fitness, for example, right? That's one area you can start it.
So, if I can chip in here, Santanu very well explained in terms of how probably leagues at a macro level have generated money, of course, from a economic perspective, and that micro now slowly when you are talking about it is trickling down to development of amateur club level kind of games. Correct. And then further trickling down to the fitness enthusiasm, to wanting to play, wanting to jam up with friends at a local level. So the whole culture is now we can witness that there is a culture that is developing in the country.
Yes.
And that, I think, is a big opportunity in terms of employment. And that employment, where when you mentioned about identifying your interest and passion, and that generally holds true in life. And when you're talking about as a sports or sports management as a career option, then you got to know that if you are good at writing, if that is your interest, if you have been following the game and you're good at numbers and that is your interest, so somewhere what you are interested in and which is that area of interest within the sport that you can contribute to, I think that is somewhere lies the center point of entry into this sports sports management as a career option.
So Shantanu, sorry Abhijit, just one quick question here. Shantanu, typically, when, let's say, in an IPL season, how many people work for you? I mean, full-time, part-time, gig? What would you say? Just to give us a sense. Just give us a sense on how many people are involved.
Sure.
And just broadly, what are the big roles these people play?
Okay, so currently you're asking me specifically for the IPL, and I presume for my experience with the Rajasthan Royals, managing the operations of the whole team, etc.
Right from volunteer to CEO.
I know. So I mean, at those times we were still a much compared to now, it was slightly smaller operation. I can guess right now that one would be working with, if you were you would be probably working with about 300 to 400 volunteers, and then those volunteers would work with a whole lot of agencies, whether it be security or food, etc., in the thousands, at least in 1,500. So if I continued as CEO, I for every event, and this is talking about a match day event, I'm sure it would have been about 1,500 to 2,000 people rolling up to me. And this is one team only. So obviously in every city you will have all of that kind of stuff. So there is it's grown tremendously. There is there are a lot of roles now, and it's become big both during the season and off the season. So
amazing.
All required, and it's always, and the thing is that it's still growing. There are lots of opportunities that are hidden. There are new customer segments coming out, right? The fitness customer segment, for example, I was talking about, or the sort of the corporate hospitality segment. Lots, for example, there was this T20I in Bangalore recently, about two weeks back, where I was aware myself of and because I was in the industry, I was speaking to a lot of people, and more than 3 times the corporates who were interested earlier, about 3-4 years back, was 3 or 4 times those corporate industry people wanted to watch the match, not just for themselves, but for their employees, but for their customers. So the benefit of sport is now growing, and it's being seen in corporate circles as well, for corporate team building, for corporate leadership, for enjoying and creating an informal entertainment experience with your customers. So then you can have something to talk about with your customers, corporate customers. So the corporate hospitality industry also is growing slowly, and that might be something also of interest for people, right?
Yeah.
Santanu, what we're trying to say here is, sorry, Jitu, can I chip in?
Yeah, please.
So basically, we are saying that at grassroots level, the leagues have kind of transcended into some employment opportunities for people to, manage events, manage clubs, manage tournaments. And then again, at corporate level, there are a lot of sports for the purpose of human resource development, and sports generally for the purpose of entertainment or fitness as part of employee welfare or employee well-being initiatives. So at both level, again, there are jobs available or opportunities available.
Oh, absolutely.
And then, of course, at professional league level, we have discussed in the last 20 minutes how people can be engaged into different departments. But one quick and fan, I just wanted to quickly share a number. Now they've started to, as you said earlier, it was, you could say, only a consumer buying a ticket and going and sitting watching a match. But slowly that consumer is now transforming into a fan, and which is like a far more serious definition of the consumer of the game. And I think the number apparently is 136 million fans in India now consuming different kind of sporting content, and that itself opens up opportunity on the digital.
I think that number is completely underestimated. In fact, I know from almost about 7 years back, when I spoke to Ashish Hemrajani of Book My Show, CEO. Ashish, right?
Yes.
He said, he gave me the same number. He said there are 500 million fans of sport content in India 5 years back. I mean, we are a 1.3 billion country. I'm sure everybody can realize that almost everybody except maybe a few pockets in the country will be sports fans. So the number is I would say the number is closer to 500 million.
Wow. And that's of course, that is pretty much 70% of the internet consumers, because internet is about 800 million right now. So pretty much 60-70% of the crowd is, and it is very well known that sports.
Yeah, I mean, again, let's be clear. We're not only talking about, like in this case, TV sport. There are so much grassroots level sport that doesn't even come to us. Jitu would know that much better than everyone else, right? There is so much grassroots levels sports in the interiors of Coorg, in the interiors of Maharashtra, Orissa. All of them are playing, consuming sports. So I include that. And even that, I think 500 million is probably a conservative number. But
completely with you on that.
Yeah. So that's where we are.
Santanu, we have one question here around. We talk about growth of league, growth of sports, great opportunities. When you recruit or when you have spoken to people, how do you weigh someone coming with the sports management background, sports management degree? Spending about a year or two learning about sports, doing the internships, etc. How do you value that?
I mean, it is important to have an overall holistic view of sport, and that is where I will value the sports management degree, because it is a structured degree. You have some sort of basic knowledge of the areas of sport and how it interacts with other areas of the world, right? Like, I think sport interacting with health, with education, with entertainment, with personal development, so many areas. So I think it's important. But in addition, also, I would say that yes, sometimes 1 or 2 years of experience or any internship work or anything, most importantly for you to even during a sports management degree, I would say, if you try and explore various areas and see where your curiosity and your passion lies, that would be hugely beneficial. And so therefore, when I recruit, or I used to recruit people, whether from sports management, with sports management degrees or not, I would want to know what is their motivation for this, for doing this, right? And it has to be thought through. It has to be tested on the field. People have to have done work, understood something, had some insights. So I would say a degree is the base, but a lot of personal exploration of their connection with sport and their career and their life is going to be important, right?
Just can you throw some light on, I'm just going with the question here, what are the specific, it's a very specific question, but broadly what are the kind of career opportunities? We understand that there is so much breadth of opportunity, from marketing to technology to event management to operations, so on and so forth, right? But that's the width of career opportunities there, right, Shantanu?
Yeah. I mean, it's everywhere and it's growing. I mean, marketing, sales, digital, operations, legal, for example, is a growing field. Technology, right? But the way I would want to put it to everyone is, of course, it's breadth, right? But there are also consumer segments. It's to these graduates and potential graduates as well. To these, I would say you are aware of the business, aware of the language of business, right? Think deeply about which consumer segment is getting impacted by the sport. It could be small kids. It could be, kids under the age group of 10. It's growing rapidly there. For example, all your football academies are growing crazily, right? Whether you have your BBFS, your Barca Academy, your Boca Juniors, that's in cities, that's sort of raging. Why not in cities, even non-cities, I mean, even non-metros as well. So the way I think about this is that there are opportunities everywhere in leagues, they're growing, but leagues is probably look at it as a sort of a culmination.
Top of the pyramid.
Yeah, it's sort of the top of the pyramid. There's a lot of work that can be done for grassroots and for middle level amateur clubs as well, and corporate. So if I look at it largely, I feel like it's grassroots, clubs, corporates, schools, and then of course the professional leagues. Schools are going. Schools. Yeah.
Kushman has been itching to
on sports right now.
Kushman has been itching to ask a question. Let's give him an opportunity to ask.
Sure.
Go ahead, Kushman.
Hi. Good evening, guys. First of all, thank you so much for sharing this valuable knowledge and sharing your time. So, like I said on the question, first of all, thanks a lot, Jitendra, for the opportunity to speak. I have just started out my own venture, all right, and it's purely out of the passion for sports. As my own background, I have been in the health and fitness industry for the past decade. So ever since I was 16, 17, I've been doing fitness, and I thought that now it's time to actually branch out in terms of sports. So we started out a sports management company, as we like to call it. We have big dreams. There are a few problems that we face in terms of at the grassroots level, all right. Thankfully, I have a partner with me, so finances are not that much of a concern. But having said that, when we go to approach some grounds and even sponsors for that matter, they tend to turn a cold shoulder on us. They're not very willing to actually be associated with us because we're just starting out. So I am very hopeful that and I'm very positive that we're going to take it further. But for somebody who's in my shoes, somebody who's in a similar situation somewhere down the line, what is the right way to go about this situation, just so that somebody doesn't lose hope?
Okay, you want to take Shantanu?
Yeah. I can. I've been in that journey as well, Kushman. So as I think Jitu, where we have a lot of closed doors. You knock on many doors and you don't get it. So it's part of being part of a growing industry where people don't have clear ways to evaluate you, right? There isn't any past past benchmarks or anything like that. I would say look for early adopters. Do some research, do some consumer sort of segmentation. Look for early adopters. Look for what we call low-hanging fruit, the quick wins for you. So rather than going to something which sounds very exciting, right? Like for example, you might want to say, I don't know which sport you're talking about, but let's say you're talking about school sports, and you want to go to the Mumbai School Sports Association, MSSA. Now they will want to see some pedigree or some work that you have done, etc. So don't look for a partnership or work with them right now. Look for smaller, low-hanging fruits. Look for schools that you can work with, right? Look for the sporting schools who are looking for passionate people to come and help them. So you go there, you finish that project, right? And then you take that project and then you go to MSSA and say, hey, I have done this with 10 schools already. I know what schools as a customers think. I know what may be their requirements. I can do a much better job of the experience. And then you have a story to tell, right? So I think most important thing is find early adopters, do quick wins, and take those stories, because storytelling is going to be very powerful, especially in the sports field. The more anecdotes you have, the more stories you have, people will start looking at you, right? I mean, let me give you an example, my own example, right? I don't say anything about Rajasthan Royals whenever I talk to people, but I just have to use that word and then talk a few stories, and that's it. The ice is broken, the doors are opened. People naturally understand sports and naturally understand these sort of big brands and stuff. Like if you say, I worked with Amazon, right? That's a very complex industry. Sport is a very simple industry. Everybody would have played it in their childhood, or have heard their nephew, whatever, right? So I think you can connect a lot, but you have to use stories. And to build stories, you have to have quick wins. And to have quick wins, you have to have early adopters. So start there, is what I'd say. Then you will build on, right? It's never going to be anywhere when you start something new, as you have done, which kudos to you. It's going to take a lot of trial, etc. But always go back to your passion and keep that core to yourself, and then you will never face too many problems, and you will get wins for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your knowledge. Thank you.
Also, Pushman, just make sure that when you go for sponsorships, etc., you are not packaging yourself like a Mumbai Indians or the way they would approach a sponsorship, right? Because obviously you would know that we are talking about a very small number when it comes to a grassroots kind of a sport. Don't equate or don't go by what a professional sports sponsorship package would be. We don't have that. The grassroots sport would never have that kind of a reach, not that kind of a eyeballs. Look for specific, and also don't approach like Santanu mentioned, quick wins is one part, but also very relevant brands. Look very hard at what are the kind of participants or your consumers whom you are going to reach, participation, and from a digital point of view, who are those customers, understand them really well, and then see very objectively who will benefit from this audience. Remember that sponsors never sponsor a sporting event. They are after your consumers whom you are engaging with. That is their priority, and that's what they are looking for. Even if you have 100 good consumers who can add value to a particular brand, they would look into your sponsorship. But don't try to say that, hey, I am doing this fantastic cricket tournament, great experience. There is going to be 50 teams, and there will be some 100. Their families will come in, and we are going to do Facebook and this. That is not going to, interest them at all. You will not even get a response for telling this story. Talk about what kind of consumers are there. How are they going to add value to your brand? That should be your starting point.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Abhijit, I think Abhay's question is there. How do I make a career in sports now after I have completed my Bachelor of Engineering? Abhijit, Santanu, you want to take that?
Yeah, for me,
given that both of us have done our engineering and did a long career in
Correct.
sports.
I mean, I think this is the long game. What I mean to say by that is that, like I said, this is a developing field. There's a growing industry, and it is the long game. You got to go after what you are passionate about, curious about, and your past will not be, your work, your past qualifications is certainly one base you have. You can learn from that. You can deploy that, but don't get constrained by that, right? So you can do other areas in sports, whatever excites you about the sport. I think that's most important, right? I know for a lot of people, playing and operations are important, but I would urge everyone to also think about the consumers that you will ultimately impact. And you are also consumers in some way, right? You're also going to clubs and small areas and playing badminton, football, volleyball, whatever, right? You're playing small things. If you can start thinking like that and looking at where the customer is, it will be hugely beneficial. And over a period of time, maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, it will become clearer to you and your interest will become clearer to you. So always be customer centric on this aspect. Any other questions?
Yeah, there's one more. Rohit is asking, I'm not sure I understand the question well. Santanu, see if you can understand this. What can be the biggest strength in sports management field?
I think the biggest strength in sports management field is truly actually being connected to the sport in every which way, because you will then transform your lived experience to your work that you do. And what I mean by that is, whether you are playing the sport, whether you are watching the sport, whether you are commentating on the sport, writing about it, whether you are coaching it, continue to do that and continue to do that with a passion. And it could be any sport, as in you could literally do any sport, because the more you play and the more you understand it and the more you internalize it, you will see its connections to various areas: fitness, education, team building, corporates, so on and so forth. So I think you have to develop these strengths. You have the difference between you and somebody else who's just done a management degree is that you not only have done a management degree, but you've also understood the intricacies of it by actually having lived it, by having played it, by having enjoyed, of course, but having played it, by seeing the connection that it has with the coaches, seeing the connection that it has with consumers, with corporates, and so on and so forth. So I would say be in constant touch with it. Let it be completely part of your life, and slowly you will see how if it's truly changed your life, then you will see how it can then change other people's lives. And that's, I think, will be gold when you talk to people like recruiters like us.
Yeah, and also some of these courses that are being offered in the sports management field, obviously take care of giving such opportunities during the internships, help in identifying those interests that you have, getting a glimpse into the real world of what it actually does, and spending that few weeks of your internship should give you some insight as to what's that's building up there. There's one more question here. Again, very similar question. I'm doing Bachelor's of Psychology honors. After my bachelor's, how can I enter in the sports field?
Yeah, so I mean, sports psychology has now become a huge thing, not just in professional sports, but also in club sports and corporate sports, etc. Clearly, there is a lot of connection between how people play a sport and how, for example, in corporate world, how people play a sport and how people take on a corporate challenge. So sports psychology is slowly growing. If that is your interest, I am speaking to Sailesh, if that is your interest, then that's the growing area where people want to excel in the sport that they play, even at the non-professional level. So there could be, you could do specific sports management course from here, and then yourself look at and learn sports psychology either from here or anywhere else in the world, or even get into doing internships and pro bono stuff on sports psychology, right? But it's going to be important to follow your passion.
Yeah. One more question, very similar, is by Sri Krishna, saying, pursuing BSc Statistics, what should be my path for working in sports operations? Please guide me. Again, very similar, trying to get your education in the sports field could be one way, because that enables you a path into getting into sports industry. You could look at internships that allows you to build your resume around sports, and then get a chance to work with some of the sports events companies that do a lot of operations work, and then work your way up. Could be one path.
I mean, and add in statistics, it's again a growing field. Econometrics, for example, one example I can give Sai Krishna is, or rather one task I can give him is read the book Moneyball, which is a combination of what are statistics and how can they be used to better sports performance. And for example, if you are passionate about statistics, then lots of data exists in other countries about econometrics, for example, sports econometrics is a very much growing field. And in India also, just to tell you, we used a lot of statistics and we used a lot of data crunching for even recruitment at RR. So making and there are companies on that right now. So there's a lot of if again statistics and number crunching and data crunching is your passion about it, because it can be transformed, right? Like there are now like I said, there are 500 million fans. I'm sure there are at least about 100 million people who play. There's a lot of data there for you to be able to bring down, both as consumers and as players, people, because that's what people are looking for, right? I mean, if you go to a brand and say that I have done research and there are 100,000 fans of X, let's say sport in Mumbai, and I can get them all together, I can identify them, then that's a huge value add for brands, right? So statistics is again a growing field, and I think there's a lot that can be done there as well.
Pulkit, Shantanu, one question from Pulkit. Sorry, Abhijit, just one question and then I'll let you know. I think this is referring to directly to sports leagues. I want to work as a manager in sports leagues. What should I do to get there?
I mean, you want to work as a manager in sports leagues. So firstly do lots and lots of internships, lots and lots of project work on the ground. Of course, and as you're doing that, keep applying, keep thinking about how you can add more value to the business leagues. There will be, like any other industry, there will be times when they recruit. For example, we would recruit a lot during January before the IPL. We would recruit, different times we recruit. For full-time employees, we'd recruit in October. For senior people who we want as volunteers, we recruit in January. For volunteers, we recruit in March. For our agency managers, we would recruit in April. So different times people recruit. I would say continue to be involved with the sport, do internships, do projects, don't give up. And then you will find some opportunity with the leagues for sure.
Abhijit?
Yeah, I actually, on the previous question, there was something very clear. Sai Krishna wanted to know on the role of statistics in sports operations. So, as Santanu also mentioned to you, that if you are talking about first things first, that the statistics is something that you're doing as graduation. I think from an education perspective, you should also build your expertise in data analytics. Python, for example, has become very basic nowadays. for people to develop a career if they're looking forward to be good at number crunching. And then when you're talking about sports operations, whether it is on the sales side, whether it is on the marketing side, or whether in general as a business analyst, as a sports analyst, you can play a role in supporting sales, marketing functions. And of course, there is a whole lot of other area which is called as performance analytics, which is to do with sports players and their performance in the game and how they go about, therefore, their own athlete development activities vis-a-vis or against the analysis of their different sporting participations that they go about doing, right from their practices to various tournaments they participate into. So, there are on player performance side and there on the business side. Both, there is a huge area of data analytics that is emerging in the sports industry as well. I think, Jitendra.
Yeah, sorry. I know, Santanu, it's 5 o'clock. I know you have to go. Thank you so much for your presence today. I think and sharing your insights, extremely helpful, Santanu. To all the other students, we are there for next 5 to 7 more minutes. So we will address few more questions that we can handle. But I have to let Santanu go. Thank you so much, Santanu. Thank you very much for.
Sure. I'll just end with a few words.
Yeah.
Firstly, I'd say that for people like us, when we recruit, when we look for talent, one of the most important things I look for is, have you understood your customers? So I'm reiterating that number one thing, which is look for whom your customers, identify the customer segments you want to work with and know them well and deeply. Know them deep, because your insights of their understanding of sport will be very useful. So that's number one, right? Be very consumer centric, whether it's schools, whether it's kids, whether it's corporates, whether it's professionals, whether it's fitness enthusiasts, people, etc. But try and build a framework for that, consumers. Second, lived experience, like I mentioned to you, for all you people, while you're doing sports management, equally at the same time, be doing internships, do projects, whatever it be, doesn't matter. Of course, it should be in the area that you like to do, but don't hesitate to do more. Don't hesitate to do more than one. The more you show lived experience in that sport, the more you will stand out against other people who are applying for jobs. So these are the, I think, two things I'd want to specifically say, not too many. And if you ask yourself your own questions as to why you want to be in, what is your motivation, what is not your motivation, what is not, don't do things just because you've got a quick income coming here, but look for more long-term development of yourself in this industry. That will stand you in long stead. So 3 things: be consumer centric, get as many lived experiences as you want, as you need, and then look for the long game. Look for things to develop yourself and make yourself better and better, because sports is a long game thing. All right?
Right, cool. Thank you. Thank you, Santanu.
Thanks everyone, and hope this was helpful. I will exit now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Abhijit, over to you.
There were a couple of questions. Sorry, I missed it in between because of my internet connection, but there was a parent, I think, I don't know whether you answered
We addressed that.
It was that. Any other question that
Yes, there is one question. Expected salary in the sports industry as sports financer or sports analyst, I assume sports finance. The salaries go all the way. Starting salaries could be, ranges depending on where you join, could range from anywhere from, 3 lakh per annum to 25 lakh per annum. And as you go, senior positions, it can go all the way from 50 lakhs to 1 crore as well. So, you can expect a whole range of salaries, starting salaries, of course, like I mentioned, anywhere from 5 to 10 lakhs can be a good starting point for a lot of jobs.
But again, to the gentleman or the lady who's asked this question, as even Santanu said in his parting shot, that when you are looking at a career, and I'm saying this to you, basis the 2 decade plus experience that I've had in the field of education management, when you're looking at developing a career in a particular field, please put your interest, put your passion forward, develop necessary knowledge, develop necessary skills that can further strengthen your passion, and then money will never be a limit. But if money is the first criteria, a lot of times, to very simply put it, there used to be this is how our typical Indian psyche is, and the best way to describe that is through I don't know how many of you remember a Maruti ad where this salesperson has explained all the features of the car very interestingly, and then at the end of putting up all the features and advantages that the model has, the Indian consumer asks, the customer asks the salesperson, kitna deti hai? Which means ye mileage kitna deti hai? And the similar psyche we have also when it comes to careers. Kitna pagar milega? So if you are going to base या कितना scope है या इतने jobs है तो मुझे भी मिल जाएगा, no, if you are interested in a particular thing and you think you can build onto that from here, that's the right way of looking or selecting career and developing a career in that particular field. So is in sports management.
One more question around esports. Yes, definitely esports is gaining a lot of momentum. A lot of franchisees are getting built. Esports is growing phenomenally. A lot of investments, a lot of PEs are investing, VCs are investing in esports. So that is definitely you can expect a phenomenal growth over next 1 decade, especially in India, where the data and the reach of internet and the mobile is growing phenomenally well. So yeah, and obviously then as the sport grows, as the participation grows, as the fans around esport gets built, there is a lot of opportunities that will come up around that, which is the management aspect of it, will also see a tremendous growth overall. Yeah,
I think
that gives all the, I think, questions. What are the routes to working with an IPL franchise or BCCI? How do they hire people? Like Santanu mentioned, there are opportunities that a lot of IPL franchisees do hire, and his advice was very clear that the students with lot of projects and internships under their belt have a higher chance of getting recruited, and obviously you need to bring that difference or the skill set that can be acquired through the experience at the internships and the project work that will help you in the hiring of any of these IPL franchisees.
Yeah, another point I would like to add here is when you're looking at a particular dream company or a dream job role that you want to do, one of the skills that you need to develop apart from the basic fundamental skills for that particular job is networking. How, as a student or a young professional, am I connecting with different people from that particular field or that particular company or that particular, those who have grown, let's say, in sponsorships, those who have grown in grassroots sports. So your connection, your ability to make connection, your ability to network will definitely improve your chances on the employment front as well.
Yeah. Pulkit, you wanted to share a video or something? We can play it now. Yes, Kushman, in the meantime, you can ask your question.
Hi, thank you so much. I promise I won't bug you any further. But just a quick thing. See, sports management and sports as an industry, because as Indians, like, we a lot of us come from the middle class, so we don't have a lot of awareness about sports, and our perspectives in general are very say narrow about this. So, like Shantanu was very gracious before he left, he recommended the book Moneyball. If there's a list of books that can help us youngsters broaden our perspective on the entire field, that would be invaluable.
Yes, there are a lot of books that are available. If you are looking from the business side of books, if you can, you can just share your email ID. I would send a list of recommendations to you.
Sure. I'll just drop it in the chat box. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Welcome.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much answers. Also, quickly, Kushman, there are some case studies that you can probably look into of maybe you can do a temporary temporary subscription of some case studies from Harvard, HBR, and there are some case studies of Liverpool Liverpool University as well. They have a few open sources. These would be some sources where quick inputs and insights can be gained.
Awesome, great. Thanks a lot.
I think we have. Thank you very much, all of you, for being part of this webinar.